All right, let's dive right into this fascinating explainer. We are looking at a massive escalating geopolitical clash dominating the headline news this year, and it's all about trash. Specifically, we're unpacking the intense year-to-date trade dispute over municipal solid waste exports between the US and Canada. But more importantly, we're going to look at how a hyper-specific edge AI solution is providing a completely brilliant way out of this mess. If you follow cross-border logistics or international trade, you already know this is an incredibly volatile space right now. So today, we are going to break down exactly how this border crisis is unfolding and how some bleeding-edge technology is literally rewiring the rules of the game. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. The closing waste corridor. 2. Timeline of a trade war. 3. Ontario's domestic landfill crisis. 4. The 905 Wood digital refinery. 5. AI-powered compliance workflow. And finally, 6. Securing the circular bioeconomy. Section 1. The closing waste corridor. The cross-border vulnerability. I really want you to consider the sheer magnitude of this number. Over 3.46 million tons. Imagine the province of Ontario as a giant bathtub, and every single day it's filling up with trash. Its critical pressure release drain is the nearly 3.46 million tons of municipal solid waste, or MSW, that it ships right across the U.S. border to Michigan landfills every single year. Without this massive release valve, the entire provincial system just backs up. And to put that into perspective on the receiving end, the scale is honestly staggering. Canadian garbage makes up a whopping 14.35% of all the waste disposed of in Michigan landfills. It is a massive systemic reliance that has functioned so quietly in the background for years, primarily taking advantage of historically low tipping fees. But as we're seeing right now in the news cycle, that quiet reliance is suddenly becoming very, very loud. Section 2. Timeline of a trade war. Two walls closing in. So this vital logistical drain we just talked about, it is freezing over, and it's happening incredibly fast due to some major year-to-date geopolitical shifts. This whole thing really escalated with the July 1st CUSMA non-renewal, which you might also know as the USMCA. Following that, on July 20th, President Donald Trump signed the Sections 338 proclamations targeting Canadian goods. And crucially for our deep dive today, those sweeping 50% tariffs, which go into effect August 19th, explicitly include wood. What we're actually seeing here are two distinct political walls closing in on this corridor from the American side. From Washington, you've got federal trade protectionism levying a massive 50% ad valorem duty. And then, from the state level, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer has proposed hiking state landfill tipping fees from a mere 36 cents all the way up to $5 per ton, specifically to deter out-of-state dumping. So whether it's by tariff or by fee, the economic viability of this entire waste corridor is literally being dismantled. Section 3. Ontario's domestic landfill crisis. A tub with no drain. The internal pressure back in Canada is already mounting fast. Tipping fees in Toronto have hit an eye-watering $189.86 per ton. Plus, the province is staring down a hard capacity cliff. Existing landfill space is projected to be completely exhausted by 2034. In a direct response to this, Premier Doug Ford's government enacted Bill 5. This is a highly controversial measure designed to bypass local environmental assessments so they can fast-track new disposal sites, specifically the Dresden landfill. The Dresden dump is needed to handle Ontario's waste in the event U.S. President Donald Trump closes the border. That quote from Premier Doug Ford absolutely hits the nail on the head. It clearly demonstrates the direct linkage between foreign policy and domestic realities. The Dresden dump is considered necessary infrastructure precisely because of the threat of the border closing. International trade pressure is acting as a direct catalyst for fast-tracked domestic deregulation. Ontario literally has nowhere else to put millions of tons of waste if Michigan stops taking it. Section 4. The 905 Wood digital refinery, reclassifying the crisis. Enter the 905 Wood digital refinery. The company calls this the sentient bridge. And the core logic here is a total game changer. Think about it. If you can definitively prove a load of debris is actually high-purity wood, it instantly stops being trash to bury and transforms into a highly valuable biocarbon feedstock. Because it gets reclassified as a residual feedstock, it completely bypasses that Section 338 tariff basket targeting standard wood products. The garbage literally becomes an asset. But here's the million-dollar question. How do you prove that reliably, at scale, out in the field? The execution here is just staggering. The intelligence isn't sitting in some distant cloud-based data center, it's physically right at the intake point. Their tech stack runs on a Google Pixel 10 Pro powered by Android 16. It leverages the light RTAI runtime directly on the device's Tensor G5 NPU. That's the dedicated artificial intelligence chip. This Edge AI setup classifies clean versus treated wood entirely offline, meaning no cellular signal required, in under 500 milliseconds. It is a literal compliance gate sitting right in the truck driver's hand. Section 5. AI-powered compliance workflow, the explainable firewall. So let's look at this four-step sequential pipeline, which is the digital refinery in action. It all kicks off with a request for quote, pulling chaotic construction waste into a neatly scheduled system. Upon pickup, the AI classification triggers step 2, instantly generating a 9-point USMCA certificate of origin. And this is the crucial part. It classifies the load under HS code 3825.0. That paperwork argues the load is wholly obtained residual feedstock, not a tariff-eligible wood product. That incredibly specific documentation is the magic key that keeps the cross-border drain open. During the verification phase, the system applies some intense regulatory rigor. The AI runs a compliance pass mapped directly against the strict leachate limits of Ontario Regulation 347, Schedule 4. It's actively scanning for and catching weathered wood that might be hiding CCA, chromatated, copper arsenate, pressure treatments. It ensures that levels of arsenic, lead, and chromium remain strictly within legal bounds. Which brings us to step 4, compliance. The application workflow outputs a heavily encrypted PDF document. It essentially freezes the entire lineage into Vertex ML metadata. We're talking the specific AI model version, exact GPS coordinates, a timestamp, and a kernel hash. You might wonder, why go to this extreme level of technical detail? Because, let's be real, a customs or tariff auditor doesn't care about your personal opinion on whether the wood is clean. They want a signed, censor-backed, court-ready chain of custody frozen in a PDF. And that is exactly what this Edge AI system delivers. Section 6, securing the circular bioeconomy, turning regulation into revenue. Here is the incredible irony of all this. By raising the financial penalty of being non-compliant, these new trade tariffs and state fees inadvertently skyrocket the value of provable compliance. The 95 Wood digital refinery converts a municipal waste emergency straight into a verifiable carbon passport for construction debris. Proving its clean feedstock unlocks what's called the carbon dividend through Corsi removal certificates. In doing so, it effectively reclassifies their entire business model, moving 905 Wood into NAICS 51 as an information company. They aren't just a waste hauling company moving wood anymore. They are minting highly valuable, explainable compliance data. Which leaves us with this final provocative thought. When you are staring down a 50% tariff wall, is this AI-generated certificate of origin an unassailable ironclad court ruling? No, it's a bet. But right now it is quite literally the only playable bet that acts as a door on a rapidly closing border. It leaves us to wonder, as global trade becomes more complex and politically charged, how many other geopolitical trade wars will be completely bypassed by Edge AI verification in the future? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this helps you see the fascinating intersection of trade, trash, and tech in a whole new light.